What's going on, everyone? So, the San Antonio Spurs kind of look at this roster and what could they use? And I think somebody that could slot in to that 4 or 5 spot. Obviously, you got Victor Wembanyama, Kelly Olynyk. Luke Cornett is more of like a 5, right? I don't really see him playing much 4. But Kelly Olynyk with his ability to stretch the floor, Victor Wembanyama, obviously. But it'd be nice to kind of add that other guy that can slot in at the 4 at times, give you some height, right? Spurs have a ton of 6'8" guys that could slot in and play the 4. I mean, you got Jeremy Sohan, you got, Carter Bryant, Harrison Barnes. You have guys that could fill in that void, but it'd be nice to kind of have, like I've talked about, that 6'10" kind of guy. Now, they did sign Potter, who is going to a training camp deal, it appears. And I've talked about bringing in like a Bull, right? A lot of Spurs fans, I get a lot of comments over like, hey, like what about Bull? What about bringing in Bull? So did a video about that, dove into that and the potential. But another guy that I think kind of fits that mold, right, of like a Bull type that I do think, he kind of has a lot of the same concerns, just his commitment to basketball, right? Like he doesn't have like some of the locker room issues that Bull has had, right? But there's a lot of questions about like how committed to the game of basketball as he is. But a guy that has a ton of potential and a ton of upside, I think still, is Mo Bamba. Right? Talk about a guy that, again, is 7'2", right? He's got a 7'10" wingspan, right? He's a guy that can stretch the floor, knock down and shoot a 3-ball, block shots. He was another guy, in his Orlando days that really showed that promise of like, hey, there might be something here, right? This is a guy that could be that two-way 3-and-D style center that can, be the anchor of your defense, block shots all over the place, long, lengthy, mobile, so he can defend in space, right? Be that floor running big that could be that lob threat, also step out, knock down the 3-ball, create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others, right? Like there was a point in time where that was kind of the vision of him. And it's like, hey, if you just take the time to really mold him, he could be that. Just hasn't panned out. Part of it has been injuries, right? Like, for example, he gets traded to the Lakers and then just doesn't see the court because he was hurt the whole time. Then he goes to teams like the Clippers, right? And he has all these issues. Did a 10-day with the Pelicans stuff, right? It's just kind of a lot of it's been injuries too. He hasn't really been able to stay super healthy out there on the basketball court. But he's 27 years old. He just turned 27 in May. So he wouldn't be 28 till, a deep playoff run by the Spurs. So it's something to where I think he's a guy that come in, give you some size and length, a guy that can slot in at the 4, slot in at the 5, right? And to me, bring him in on a training camp deal, right? Just like you did Potter, right? Bring him in and just see, right? What's the worst that happens? You bring him in and he doesn't hold up the way you want him to, and then you let him go, and then it's just like, hey, good luck to you, right? But if it does work, and he does cook, and he is killing it, and it is like, hey, man, there might be something here, perfect. Well, then now you can bring him in on a, the 15th roster spot and let him kind of show what he's capable of doing, right? So, it's the same idea and logic with Micah Potter, right? Like, you bringing in Micah Potter, who has some question marks, who has some concerns, right? But he has that potential to be that big 3-and-D style forward center that can, if he can play a solid role for you, could do wonders, right? So I look at Mo Bamba in a lot of the same mold as that, and I just think, I think a team like the Spurs that have the infrastructure, have the pedigree, have all the things that kind of, if anyone kind of get Mo Bamba right, I do think it's the Spurs. I think the Spurs have the infrastructure to kind of get him in order. You got a lot of young guys, right? But you have veterans like, a De'Aaron Fox, and you have a Harrison Barnes and stuff that can kind of talk to him, Pop still within the organization, so he can kind of, have conversations with them and stuff. And I also think, Mo Bamba's a guy that, like, this might be his last shot. He's 20, like I said, he's 27 all of a sudden. If this doesn't work out, now he's 28, 29, right? Like, teams eventually are going to go like, hey, it's at this point, it's just not even worth it. Like, why even bother at this point? So, a lot of ways, like I was talking about with the Bull situation, kind of feel the same way with Mo Bamba, but even to a higher degree because he's older, of like, hey, like, this might be his last like opportunity to stick around in the league. And even if you do bring him in on like a main contract, you talk about a vet minimum, so low risk, high reward. At worst, he's the 15th guy just riding the bench. And then when something better comes along, you bring him on, right? So you can sign him to a non-guaranteed deal if you have to. So you can just cut him at any point if you need to, or, trade him in the season as like salary filler, and, that team can just waive and cut him, right? There's options if you're the Spurs to kind of, have the flexibility needed, right? But let's get into the numbers here a little bit, right? Because like I mentioned, guy mobile, can defend, hit threes, right? There is a version of Mo Bamba that is terrifying, right? There is a version of Mo Bamba that like him and Victor Wembanyama could be just good luck, right? That size, that length on the inside, the mobility, the defense, right? Like both guys could stretch the floor. There is a version of that where it's like, okay, like good luck scoring on the interior, good luck defending them with 7+ guys that could spread the floor and do all these things and put the ball on the deck and, and just show different versions, right? Like it'd be crazy. But last year, right, between the Pelicans and the Clippers, he played in 32 games, averaged 13 minutes per game, only 3.5 field goal attempts per game, shot 46.4% overall. On 1.7 attempts from three-point range, he shot 27.8%, which isn't good, right? But, right, big part of his drop was with the Pelicans. Right, he played 4 games with the Pelicans. He averaged 1 attempt per game, and he didn't make one with the Pelicans. So it really dropped his percentage. Where you look at with Philadelphia, he was 39%. Orlando, the year before he got traded to the Lakers, he was actually just under 40% on 2.7 attempts. Right, so he is a career 36% guy, but he's had multiple seasons where he was 38 and above. Right, especially in his Orlando days. Right, he had. The Orlando season where he was 38.1% on 4 attempts, and then you get into the season before he was traded to the Lakers, he shot 40% on 2.7 attempts. So he's a guy that has shown the ability to shoot the 3 ball. But sticking with last year, 2-point range on 1.8 attempts, shot 63.8%. EFG of 53.1%. Free throw shooting, he was 70.4% on 0.8 attempts, so not even a full attempt. But still, grabbed 4.5 rebounds, an assist, half a steal, a block, and 4.3 points per game. If you look at his per 36, now per 36 doesn't tell you everything, but it kind of gives you an idea of like, okay, what could he have done if he got, the heavier minutes. And you look at last year, he would have been 12 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks is what he would have been per 36. So again, a guy that I don't hate. Bring him in, get a look at him, see how it plays out. Maybe it works out, and bring him in on a training camp deal. What do you have to lose? If he doesn't look good, no problem. You just let him go. Sign him to a 10-day contract. Right, bring him into a camp deal. Right, Exhibit 10 or something like that, right? Boom, comes in, works out, beautiful. Sign him to the 15th roster spot. If it doesn't work out, no problem, move on. He's also 27, so he's in that. He has some experience. He's a guy that is versatile, slotting at the 4, slotting at the 5, give you different looks, give you different perspectives out there, can play some defense. Maybe he could do some help with Victor Wembanyama. Right, kind of learn a little bit from him, and it's the motor is kind of the question with him, right? Like how serious does it take the game? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.